Hello and welcome to Revolutionise Your Love Life. Do you want to know more about love relationships, what makes them work, how to create the one of your best dreams? Do you want to be in a really healthy, juicy love relationship? In these podcasts, we will give ideas and practical advice to light your way. Whether you're looking for a love partner, already in a relationship you wish could be better, or leaving one that has run its course, there will be something to inspire, empower and support you. Revolutionise Your Love Life is a fortnightly podcast where you will access the knowledge and wisdom of love experts and relationship coaches from across the world to help you find true fulfillment in love. I am your host, Heather Garbutt. Welcome.
Today we're looking at a new paradigm in love and relationships, looking at the steps to choosing and winning the relationship of your life. And I'm really excited to be joined by Heather Garbutt, who's a renowned love and relationship coach. She brings an incredible perspective to creating and sustaining romantic partnerships. So she's trained in lots of different modalities, including with Catherine Woodward Thomas in LA. And she specializes in a couple of different transformation programs that we're going to be helping to understand as well. And so firstly, Heather, welcome to the show.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me.
Welcome. Well, first thing I'd love to ask, Heather, is what inspired you to become a love and relationship coach?
Well, I've been a psychotherapist for 40 years, and in 2016, I was not in a relationship myself. I'd been married and divorced and had other long-term relationships, but none of which had been lasting or satisfying for me. I'm a great giver, and that's what I did. I learned that, as a woman in relationship, that's what you do. So on Valentine's Day 2016, I woke up alone and I made an unconscious intention that I would never wake up alone again on Valentine's Day. And I opened up my emails and there was a message from Catherine Woodward Thomas. Do you want to create a miracle in your love life? Well, unhappy or possibility, which are you going to choose? So I signed up for the course and I did Calling in the One for myself, and it worked really quite quickly. And I've never looked back. The quality of my relationships so much better, and it's improved everything in my life.
Fantastic. That's so inspiring to hear. I'm curious, what would you say your biggest insights were from that work you did on yourself and thinking about your relationship? What would you say your biggest turning point was?
Wow, that's a big question. So I think, although, from psychotherapy, I know all sorts about my early life, I hadn't really put them into context of the core beliefs that were driving the life that I was creating in the present. So I have a core belief of I am alone. So I live my life as if nobody's going to help me, nobody's interested in me, for me, and I have to do everything myself. I may as well get on with it. And I don't notice when I'm in that, frame. I don't notice when people are being loving or kind or offering things or want to share things or invite me to things. So that, you can imagine how that drives your relationship life.
Yeah, okay. That's it. Fascinating. So you became, what I'm hearing, Heather, is you became aware of some of these patterns or beliefs that were maybe holding you back or underpinning some of the challenges you're having. Is that right?
Yeah, and I learned ways to overcome them, to really conquer
Okay.
them and notice when I'm in them and choose to behave and feel differently.
That's really fascinating because I was going to say that it's one thing to be aware of something. Like I could be aware that I've got this pattern called whatever, I'm anxious, let's say.
Mm.
But it's to be aware that you have a pattern and actually then breaking it and doing something different are quite different things, aren't they? It's a different step.
Yeah,
What are your thoughts on that?
absolutely. And it's key, I think. One is to learn it, one is to learn the mechanisms by which you can evolve from them. And the other is to have a really strong hand you can hold while you make that transition. Because you come to those core beliefs from real likelihood, real emotional, if not other kinds of trauma that we don't recognize the magnitude of. And they're protective beliefs. It's
Hmm.
better for me to be alone than to reach out to others and not be met and fall flat on my face would be, where it started from.
Yeah.
So really coming through that and learning to be different is just such a huge thing. Just a huge thing.
It's challenging, isn't it? And I
Mm.
was just wondering because you were working as a psychotherapist for many years, before this
Mhm.
turning point. I'm just curious, how do you look at those years, like before you had this realization and this deeper understanding? What would you say, like, what was missing at that point in that respect?
All of that was really foundational. And I wouldn't have been able to make the transformations without the levels of awareness that I already had.
Okay.
But what's missing, or certainly in the modalities that I was working in, was the future focus. Because this kind of coaching is very much future focused and very much intentional, very much living from the vision of how you want things to be and how you want to feel. So there's a big meditative part of it, guided
Okay.
meditation rather than, just watching your thoughts. It's a powerful vision of who you are in the life that you want to be leading.
I
And that's where
see.
you start to live and act from.
That's fascinating. That sounds like what some people talk about manifesting. Is that a word that resonates for you, Heather, or not?
Yes, it does. Yes, very much so. But I think people do manifesting from a much simpler place. And unless you address the blocks, no matter what you do, how many times you write down your wishes, unless you do this core work, it won't change.
Mm.
And unless
See.
you've got somebody really holding your hand, and it can be a group, it can just, can be doing it as a group of friends. Um, but unless you've got that solidarity, you won't let go of those old core beliefs to move on.
I see. Interesting. Oh, that's fascinating. In terms of moving on and like people maybe listening in thinking, well, I'd love to do what you did, Heather. I'd love to have an amazing relationship and I don't have one now, or maybe I have a relationship, but it's not the one that I want. Because there's lots of advice around dating, isn't there? But what I'm hearing is that your process went much deeper than most like dating advice. Is that a fair comment?
It absolutely is. I mean, I have got dating guides, which I give to people. Different people are willing to do different levels of work and are able to do different levels of work. So I have dating guides which really take into account some of the deeper aspects of calling in the one. So it's how you look at a prospective partner. You really get very clear on what sort of qualities you want in your relationship, what the values are. You evaluate between you what their attitudes are to the big things in life, like if they want children or how dedicated they are to their own family now, if they've got responsibilities for parents or other members of their family. What their attitudes are towards things like career and money and men's and women's roles. That I generally work with heterosexual couples, but not always. But generally, that's where I place myself.
Yeah.
Uh, it can be things like where you want to live, what style of life you want to have. If somebody wants to live in a penthouse in New York with a view right across the city, and the other one wants to have a croft in the Hebrides, that is never going to be a meeting of minds. So you need to do all of that
Yeah.
stuff first.
I see.
Yeah,
That makes sense. So yeah, so what I'm hearing is being clear on like the big questions or the big areas that
yeah,
you may want to think about the level of alignment between where what you're looking for, what the other person's looking for. Is
yeah,
is that right?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And believe people if they say they're not ready.
Yeah, I see. That's an interesting point about believing people, because I think there can be a degree of like wanting to believe certain things. Do you find like when people are in this situation and they really want it to work, and then they almost turn a blind eye to things that objectively speaking, you might look at and say, well, this doesn't look like a good match, but people maybe they see it, but they don't want to see it. Do you ever come
No.
across that?
Oh, all the time. All the time. Because when our young selves get involved, we're dating from very immature places. We're generally, if we haven't done the work, we are looking for people to parent us in ways that we haven't been parented. And self-sabotage is implicit in that because we'll choose people who give us the same experience of the parents that we had. Not that they're necessarily bad parents, but emotional neglect is endemic in our society, even now,
Yeah.
let alone 30 years ago. So we keep on replicating the same kinds of experience of not being seen, not being heard, not being valued, not feeling that we're good enough, not feeling worthy, not feeling deserving, you name it.
That's so fascinating. I love that way of looking at it, Heather. If I understood, you're saying that the patterns that we experience growing up, let's say that we were neglected emotionally for argument's sake, that we then look for a partner to give us a familiar experience, which may not be a particularly good familiar experience, but at least it's familiar, and
Yeah,
then we settle for it. Is that
yeah,
is that right?
yeah. And the chemistry gets involved. If they're similar to what we originally experienced, is what we think love and connection is. That's our only experience of it. So that's what we seek out. And we get,
Yeah.
in some ways, on the surface, somebody may look like they're very different from your parents, but you'll find the unavailability over time. And the heartbreak in that is phenomenal. The chemistry is so exciting. It's part of what makes people just say, oh, never mind the red flags. I'm sure I can make it work. I'm sure he'll love me really. I'm sure we can make the circumstances align. But generally we can't.
Yeah, that's right. And I guess people then have again, that disbelief of like wanting it to work and maybe feeling comfortable in a certain way, but then
Mm.
also having to reconcile the fact that they're just not happy or they're not meeting their needs or something is doesn't fit with their values, maybe in terms of the way they're being treated. Is that,
That's
have you come
exactly it.
across that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And my idea really is to give what you can to yourself to repair that early attachment pain. So in being a model of that holding hand or that warm embrace that calms you and that listens to you and that empowers you, sort of helps you think what you want to do, supports you through that, holds you accountable, as an ideal parent would be. I'm as ideal as I can be, within my human boundaries. Um, by modeling that and encouraging that to develop in the people that I work with, they're already giving to themselves what they would hope for from a relationship.
I
So they don't put
see.
themselves in a childlike position.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Heather. So it's really what I'm hearing is like healing yourself or healing that part, like taking ownership of that part that may be lacking or maybe looking for things that a partner can't really give us and like taking responsibility for that so
Yeah,
that we can then engage in a healthier way when we meet a potential partner. Is that right?
that's right. Yeah. And if we don't do that, we're liable to make our partner a parent. And that's not attractive. Eventually, over time, that kills any chemistry. And also, you're really in danger of power and control relationship then.
Makes sense. That's right. Because yeah, parent probably isn't consciously what people are looking for, but if they unconsciously create that dynamic, again, it can be quite confusing, can't it? When you have a partner that in many respects you may think they tick the boxes and they meet your requirements, but actually if the dynamic is one of these parent-child type dynamics, then it probably isn't going to work as a romantic relationship for long, is it?
No. And God, it's such a waste of time and energy and suffering. It hurts
Mm,
your heart to go through that. Even if it takes you 3 months to work it through, that's 3 months that you could have been living better.
that's a great point. I guess if someone's in that place there, maybe they're 3 months in and they've been really struggling. I
Mm.
guess it's also worth thinking how the future is going to look if they don't come to terms with it and deal with it now. Because, yeah, 3 months is quite a while, but 3 years is longer, and 3 decades is even longer than that, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And it breaks my heart to see people trying and trying and trying to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear.
Yeah, that's right. It's challenging, isn't it? It's frustrating too. So that's a
Yeah.
great point. So in terms of like your approach, I think you've got this uh, uh, approach called calling in the one. That's the thing that you followed.
Mm.
I guess we've been talking about some of these aspects, but if you could just summarize, what does it mean? What does it give people when they go through this process?
First of all, we look at your patterns in love. So it may be that you're always choosing unavailable people, and that can be they say they're not ready, they're not emotionally engaged, they live a long way away. You know, they don't really want a relationship. They might want a short-term one, but they're not looking for what you're looking for. So you keep on choosing unavailable partners. That could be one pattern. It's a fundamental one, really. Or choosing partners that are bad for you and want to control you or are so involved and anxiously attached that they suffocate you. That could be another pattern. So we look at those, we look at where they come from. This is a slow process, it's not a 10-minute task. It involves journaling and it involves reflective practice. And we unpick to find where they came from. It's a beautiful, clear process then to develop the adult part of you to look after all those young parts that got hurt. And in that place, and maybe not saying this all in the sequence it appears, but in that place, you look at all the relationships you've got in your life. Where are they draining you? Where are you giving away your power? It won't just be in your romantic relationships, you know, it'll turn up in work where you watch somebody else get promoted over you and don't say a word because that's what you were used to. Your sibling got priority or some such. We look deeply, and I teach how to get out of those patterns in the moment. So when to speak up for yourself and when to really be truthful in a positive way so that you are advocating for yourself. How to disinvest in relationships and situations that drain you rather than give you joy, hearten you.
Okay.
And also letting go of any old relationships that you might have had in the past way back. You know, two 14-year-olds could say, I'll always love you and nobody else. And they mean it so intentionally in that moment that it stays with them forever. So every other relationship they're sort of half-hearted in. So we go back and we unpick all of those and cut the cords to the past,
I
all the
see. That's
negativity in the past and really get a sharp vision, a clear vision of what you want from the future and how that will mean you think, feel, and behave so that you really align with that. And when you find yourself triggered, you can shift out really well.
okay.
And then you're in the action phase, going
Yeah.
out to find somebody, you know.
Okay, fantastic. That sounds really interesting. What I'm hearing is like a deep personal audit, really, like thinking about like where you've come from, how you've come to certain beliefs, making sense of them. It sounds a bit like resetting your operating system, almost like you're trying to discover the glitches where you could just be in patterns that don't work. Is that fair?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Amazing. And uh, so, what would you say the key steps are? So, once you get this clarity and understanding, what do people do then? What do you do with that?
You start looking for the relationship you want. First of all, it's calling in you. So you start living your life as you want to. You know, people become more creative, they can become more assertive. They know what they want in life. Was most of us, you know, are sort of doing dodgem dating with our lives. You know, we bump into something, oh, I'll try that then. You know,
Mm,
it's not intentional, it's not clear, it's not focused, it's not planned. So
yeah.
people start to look after their money better, look after their career, think what's really important to them as a human being. And they
Mm,
start doing the things that really nourish them and give them joy. So from that place, when they're looking for their true love, they're looking from a place of strength and they're looking to find somebody who has a similar way of living and loving. And they find them
makes a lot of
much more
sense.
frequently from that place.
Well, it makes perfect sense, doesn't it? That you would, if you're being more intentional, committed, and doing things that make you happy, then surely you've got a better chance of encountering other people that are doing similar things, and you can explore connection from there. So that makes a lot of sense. Um, yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. I know that's one of your passions, Heather, isn't it? That sort of helping people to find a partner to get themselves into a really great relationship when maybe they weren't before. Um, how does that tend to affect people? Like when they get into a relationship that really works for them, what what does that tend to do for people's lives as a whole?
It becomes a crucible for growth and self-expression, and in the Jungian terms, self-actualization. They really support each other. You know, sometimes you can, if you're in those two negative phrases, you can ratchet down. You can really go down the rabbit hole. But if you're in the positive phase, you can ratchet up, and the world's your oyster.
That's a great point. Yeah, absolutely. Makes sense. And so I know we've talked quite a bit here about like calling in the one, the finding a relationship, but I know you also have this other specialism, which is more around uncoupling, conscious uncoupling. I think you frame it as. So I'd love to go into that and talk a bit more about that. So yeah, give me a quick intro on this. So explain what this conscious uncoupling is and why is it so important?
Right. When relationships have run their course, and that can be through just growing apart or wanting different things or lack of relationship skills to know how to maintain a relationship, can be, get into antagonisms and arguments and alienation. I think, is it Esther Perel calls it intimate enemies? You can become intimate enemies
Mm.
when it becomes competitive and about right and wrong rather than loving each other. Who is right? Who is wrong? You know,
Yeah.
there's not there's not that sort of presence together of being curious and loving and trying to understand each other. It's
Mm.
just a defensiveness. So if you get to that point and you really can't find a way through, conscious uncoupling is a really good process. I generally only work with one side of the couple. Sometimes I work with a sister coach if the other partner really wants to do it as well. Quite often,
Okay.
there's only one partner who's up for the growth, and that might be part of the issue why they're separating anyway.
I see.
And conscious uncoupling, it's where you set an intention again for how you want the relationship with your ex to be. And
Okay.
that's your North Star. You don't necessarily need their cooperation, though obviously it's better if you have it. So you want to be able to cooperate if you've got children. You want not to spend all the money you're going to need to set up new lives on divorce courts. You're not going to want to drag your children through that. One of my podcasts is about the effect of law courts on children and the family law. It's awful. So you don't want that. You
Yeah.
want to be able to have one family in two homes with secure children and well resourced. So that if you've got children, that's where people go. If you don't want to have anything more to do with your ex, that's fine too. And sometimes that's the safe thing to do. And sometimes it's just,
Okay.
if it's just the two of you involved, you've come to the end. Thank you and goodbye.
Mm. Okay.
But the conscious uncoupling process follows a similar track, but not quite the same to calling in the one, in that you look at what's gone wrong in the relationship, where you lost yourself, where you started to be less yourself, trying to fit in or avoid conflict. Generally, people diminish themselves and they don't stay in their adult selves when things aren't working. They go smaller and smaller and smaller. So
Okay.
we use that as the way in to uncover the core beliefs that have been driving. If unless I do this, I will be left. Unless
Okay.
I do this, there's something with me. I'm not good enough.
I
Unless I do
see.
this, I'll never be visible. You know, it's just
Mm.
it can be awful, all those core beliefs. Then we use the
Yeah.
same piece of the True You Awakening process that goes right through the middle of both programs
Okay.
to empower and be in your adult self.
I see. That makes a lot of sense. So, would you say how much is it about like the practical navigating of like difficult conversations and like finances, and how much is it more about deeper level uncovering our beliefs or maybe limitations that have caused some of the problems?
I think as you do that work, those difficult conversations become easier. I'll never say they're easy because they're not. But as you become more in your adult self and more aware of the dynamics between you, you can work out the best way of dealing with things.
Okay.
And a core piece is clearing the air. So you look at how your behavior has affected the other person, how your reactions to their behavior has affected the other person, as well as how theirs has affected you.
Mm.
And there's a sort of, I'm going to say, a protocol for going through that. If it's not safe, we don't do it. We do it in imagination rather than in literal. Some people,
Mm.
if I'm working with one party, will go away and have those conversations with their partner,
See.
sometimes on their own, sometimes in support. But it helps you make the new agreements that you need to make, the new boundaries, create new security.
Makes sense. Yeah. So it's about like learning from what's happened. And I think what I'm hearing is trying to reflect on our own part in the breakdown or breakup and just thinking, well, what do I need to learn from this? Is that right?
Yeah, so I don't go and do the same or the opposite in future relationships.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense. What would you say the biggest challenges people have in this area of like ending a relationship, but ending it in an effective way that doesn't cause more damage? What would you say people's biggest challenges are around this area?
I think it's getting out of that pattern of competitiveness and alienation, a sort of sensitive ego. It's staying in adult, particularly if the other person isn't doing their work. They can still be reacting from their old ways, and it's the key piece of work for you to stay in your adult self and to honor yourself while also honoring them, being curious and being honest, being kind as well. It's not about punishing the other person. It's about
Yeah,
how to make this work well, how to let go well.
I see. Yeah. Yeah, when you say not punishing people, because obviously when we're hurting, that can be one of our reactions, can't it? We don't want to feel hurt on our own. We'd rather other people feel hurt as well if we're going to feel hurt. Um, I was just wondering, because you mentioned a couple of times staying in our adult self. Is that what you mean by that? Like avoiding that kind of wanting to hurt the other person, or is there other things that come under that heading?
Staying your adult self means living from that intention and you want to feel with yourself and with the other person. So if we are triggered, we're likely to go back to our young ways. And our young ways, you only have to look in a nursery, that's mine, no, that's mine, no, that's mine. And that
Mm,
can come up in the law courts. We see it all the time,
yeah, yeah.
and really unpleasantly so. So we don't want to get there. There may even be acts of golden repair where you can see that it may not be the legal view of things or the lawful view of things, but you may want to give ground in some ways, like let the other person live in the family home or provide some funding to help them set up a new home if you have more funds than them. It's those sorts of things that
Mm,
can really go a long way to make the other person not feel punished. And it brings down the angst and the fierceness. Okay, sometimes if somebody's narcissistic, they'll think, aha, I've got them, but you choose for yourself which way you want things to go.
yeah, it's a great way to look at it. I mean, we can't control ultimately how the other person's going to conduct themselves, but I like the idea of really focusing in on our own role, how we navigate it. It sounds really, really positive. Because I don't, what do you think? I guess like this period of separation is intrinsically a really difficult one, isn't it? I can really see how a lot of people would value support, encouragement, and guidance during that time.
Yeah.
What do you think? Why do you think that is such a difficult period for people?
We're completely broken open. When we're heartbroken, we're likely to go back to the earliest emotional traumas that we felt and start living from that. So the feeling of absence, the feeling of abandonment, even if you're the one leaving, it still tears you apart. So a core piece of the work is creating emotional safety inside, and that's stabilizing. So we're not living from that. So we can look after those broken-hearted pieces of us.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful process to watch when you see people come out of that. It's just lovely to see them be able to care. Quite often I'll go take somebody back when they're really triggered. I'll say, "How old do you feel? How old do you feel in your body?" And they'll say, "Oh, I feel 3." Okay, so what are you remembering? What were you remembering about being 3? Is there a particular memory, or is there a sort of a feeling of that time? Sometimes there's a specific one. We'll do that because it's easier to describe. So they'll say, "I'm sitting on my bed and I'm all alone." And pick it a bit more. My mum's out at work. My dad is downstairs, but he's drinking. And I'm really frightened because I don't know what he's going to do when she comes home, if he's going to be angry. And I can't rely on her because she's going to be handling him. So okay, what would you like to do? Let's you and me go and visit that little you. I'll be standing at your shoulder. So one person will go back and pick up. If the little one is trusting enough, usually they say, "Thank God you're here," you know, because the parents aren't there. "Thank God you're here. It's good to have Auntie in the background. Let's just be together." And then we have a conversation between the two. You know, "I've got you now. Nobody's going to hurt you. You're not going to be alone. You're coming with me. And if you have feelings, let me know and I will come and look after you." So then in the get into that feeling, we know where it
Yeah.
comes from. We can pick up the little one, soothe it, and then decide how we're going to act.
Wow, that's really beautiful. I love that. Thank you for describing that. It's really, I could really feel it's a very intimate thing, really, isn't it, to go through with someone to help them reconnected with that wounded part of themselves that was, left behind, abandoned, whatever, and help them to, yeah, rebuild that bridge and connection. That sounds really incredible. When people do that, what sort of benefits do people take away from that? Once they've gone through that process or that
Oh,
sort of work?
but it's double. You take away or alleviate some of the pain, but at the same time, all the energy of a 3-year-old can come into you, and you can start to enjoy life once that little one is safe, knows they've got good boundaries, knows they've got encouragement and security in relationship. They can play and they can really fuel your life.
Mm.
Absolutely beautiful to see.
That's incredible. I love that, Heather. And yeah, it sounds really, really inspiring work that you're doing. And I'd love to come on to like the third bit I wanted to touch on. We talked about calling in the one, like finding the relationship. We talked about the conscious uncoupling. I'd also like to focus in for people listening who are maybe in a relationship where maybe they're struggling, they're feeling stuck. What advice would you give to people in that scenario if they're maybe considering like they want to improve the relationship, but maybe they don't know whether it's improvable? Where would you suggest someone begin?
I think the same work is key. Um, I would suggest reading both the books together. There's a lovely book as well, which is called 8 Dates by John and Julia Schwartz Gottman. And they really talk about how to establish trust and commitment, how to deal with conflicts. And it's the roadmap. So establishing trust and commitment is really learning how to listen to each other, properly having a date night. I've just written this piece of how to make your wife feel more loved. And generally, it's by listening to what she says, not assuming that you know. And it goes both ways, men and women, and everybody really,
Yeah.
to be listened to, heard, and understood is the fundamental thing.
That's so important, isn't it? Yeah. How could someone do that if they're listening, thinking, yeah, I'd love to make my wife feel more heard and understood, but how? What would you suggest?
Well, I think ask her, you know. There's a beautiful thing, the five love languages quiz, which is a great way in because it's a bit playful. So you would both do the quiz, and you might find that you really like words of affirmation, and they express their love in acts of service. So they're busy doing everything for you, and you're just thinking, will you stop down, sit down and come and talk to me? You don't feel loved at all. They think they're being really, really loving, and they're exhausted when they sit down to talk. And they, what?
Yeah.
You want to talk now? You know?
Yeah.
So, and
That's
the
right.
other ones are physical affection, gifts, quality time. I think as well, there's another one which is time on your own. If you're somebody that needs time on your own, allowing your partner to have time on their own is really key.
That's a great point. Why do you think that's so important there, Heather?
Well, many of us edge towards the introvert side, and we need that time to decompress. If
Mm.
you're an extrovert, you're out there and you're getting fueled by being with people. But if you're an introvert, you need peace and quiet,
Yeah, that's right.
calm.
That's a great point. And if we don't, I guess that's when it comes out in the relationship in things like frustration, annoyance. And it's not necessarily even about the other person. It's just that we need that time to process, decompress, and so on. So it makes a lot of sense. Well, uh, Heather, I've really enjoyed the conversation today. Give us a final call to action, maybe for anyone listening where they're, considering where they're at right now. What would you say to people, maybe where they're struggling?
I would say set an intention, really think what you really want. If you're with a partner, talk about it with them. Spend some time, always have a date night every week. And I don't mean, go and see a movie where you're not talking. This is a chance to really look at your relationship. You talk about what you're grateful for together. Then you get an idea of what's important to them. You talk about what you can pat yourself on the back for so they know and you can feel how you appreciate yourself, what you feel good about. It increases your self-esteem, makes you
Mm.
feel good, makes you remember, because, we're always looking at what we haven't done. And then appreciate some things that the other person has done that has touched or moved you or made you feel happy or relieved some pressure so that they know what to do more of and they feel appreciated as well. That's usually what I say to do on a date night, those three things. You can think about, what else you want in life, get aligned with that. If you want to go traveling, together. You want to go to, I don't know, maybe you want to go to the Far East on a Japanese holiday and see all the tea houses and the beautiful gardens. If that's something you want to do together, really make a plan how that's going to happen. So it doesn't happen when you're 75,
Yeah,
when
that's
you're
a great point.
doddery and can't walk around.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. If it's important, make it happen. And yeah, I love that. It's a really positive way to think about it, as a general point, not to just accept something that is unsatisfactory and just do something about it, take action, plan. And that sounds really, really encouraging, Heather. So I just want to say thanks again for joining us today. How can people keep in touch with you, Heather, to find out more about what you do?
There's my website, heathergarbutt.com, and I'm on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect any which way.
Amazing. Well, we'll include those links in the notes, and I'd really encourage everyone listening to do that and find out more about what you're doing.
Thank you.
So yeah, thanks again for joining us today, Heather, and keep well.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Revolutionise Your Love Life. I'd like to know what has been your biggest takeaway from this conversation. Do take a minute and share this with us, and visit us on our Facebook page. You can connect with me personally on my email at heather@heathergarbutt.com. If you can think of someone who will benefit from listening to this podcast, please do share it with them. If you have any feedback on how I can improve it, please do reach out to me, as I'm always keen to learn more. Thank you so much again for listening, and we'll meet again on the next episode of Revolutionise Your Love Life.